Well, I've managed to find something quite interesting today. Found a port of Firefox OS for my phone. Now, I'm sure a lot of you may not actually know what Firefox OS is, because it's quite an old project, well, old-ish, and it's been out of support for quite a while now. Well, essentially what Firefox OS is it's kind of a web-based operating system, and everything on it would in theory be very sort of web-centric. And it was developed by Mozilla. It's Firefox OS, uses the Firefox browser, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, a while ago, it kind of died off and didn't really get that much support. And I'm going to speculate the reason for that was probably that, it was just kind of too ahead of its time, because I think if this came around now, it would be quite popular. And the unfortunate thing about Firefox OS is, though, that no one in the open source community really picked it up, so it's kind of abandoned, which is a shame. But of course, as I said, I found a build for my phone, and I decided to flash it and see what would happen. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look around it, I guess. Now, I never actually used this back in the day, which I'm kind of sad because it looks pretty nice. Reason being, my hardware just didn't have support, but it is what it is. But this now does. And my first impressions of it are, it looks very nice, and it's kind of got this very iOS kind of thing going on, like a sort of modern iOS 6, because you can see the lock screen is swipe to unlock. You can swipe to the side to get your camera. The camera does work, it's just pointing at the table. And yeah, it's all very iOS. You've got all your apps laid out in front of you. You can swipe left and right. It's pretty nice. Now, as for apps you actually get, well, out of the box, Firefox OS is actually very minimal. And I will go ahead and show you what I mean in a second. But the home page, you've got folders, of course. Folders do work. There is a folder called Games, but for some reason it won't load, probably because we don't have any games. You've got, your music and your showbiz, which also won't load. And I speculate the reason for that might be is because it's trying to load apps from the Firefox Marketplace, but maybe someone who used Firefox OS back in the day can let me know what that might have done. But no, if you swipe to the right, you have all the apps you actually have installed. As you can see, it's all very iOS in the way that it's laid out. You can move around icons and they're kind of locked onto a grid, much like iOS. You've got your dock, much like iOS, and yeah, it's all very iOS-esque. So starting from the top, you get yourself a camera, which, like I say, does work. You can record video. It will tag your photos with location. You can do all the things you would expect from a camera app. Pretty cool. You've got a gallery app, which we don't actually have any photos. Let's just go ahead and take one so I can show you what that looks like. There we go. And we go back into the gallery, as you can see. You've got all the options you would expect. You can edit it, you can share it, all that sort of thing. So it's all very modern in that way. You get an FM radio, which, fantastic, always good to have. But I don't think this hardware actually has an FM radio, so that won't work. But that's a good idea. You've got your settings, as you would imagine. Looks all very iOS, all very clean. And what I did find to be quite cool in the settings are, and it's a little bit jittery, which I'm not quite sure what that's about, app permissions and do not track. You can actually stop apps and websites from tracking you. Fantastic. You've got your marketplace, which of course won't work. I'm hoping you can see that, because on the viewfinder it looks kind of strange, but could not find. That's a shame. If we keep going, you've got your calendar, which is just a bog standard calendar. You've got a clock, which works for a clock, and I must say it does look rather nice. You've got your usage data, which, fantastic. It will basically track how you're using your internet and that, which I believe is quite useful, because I think Firefox OS was intended for kind of developing markets where mobile data is at a premium, so that's always good to have. You've got your email app, of course. You've got your music, and you have your video, which of course we don't have anything like that, but that would work if we did. You've got your phone, you've got your messages, as you would imagine. You've got your contacts, which you can actually import them, and the setup wizard prompted me to do that. And I must also say about Firefox OS, the setup wizard was very brief, which in many respects is great. And here is the sort of main event. your web browser. Now, with this being Firefox OS, I was expecting kind of like a full, Firefox browser, but it's actually fairly slim pickings, really, in the browser itself. You can clear your data, you can search. It does look very Firefox, which, cool, you got a nice keyboard there. And it sort of, oddly enough, loads up the desktop side, but if we're going to go on to there, yeah, it does work. And strangely enough, that's the mobile side. Go on, let's see if we've got more options for the browser in the settings, because I don't think we do. It is all very slim pickings in terms of customizing it. However, maybe this was stuff that they were going to add in later. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. But all in all, it's a bit brief because I don't really have much to say about Firefox OS. However, what I will say is it was a very nice mobile operating system, and I think, had it had a longer life, that sort of thing, I think it might have actually stood a chance of it lasting until today, and it is very nice in its own right as well. Very modern in many respects. It's fast, it's simple. What more can I say? Now, of course, you can't really use Firefox OS these days, but if you've got a spare device that's capable of running Firefox OS, go ahead, install it, and look at what sadly never was.